Today, we're going to work on the first block. This one right here. That one is letter A, and the kitty is cat 1. There are 5 cats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I finished this one yesterday. We're going to do this one today, and I'm going to tell you the things I learned in 8 or 9 hours working on that one yesterday. Scan and cut. Whoa. Every project's different, you know. So, in your book, it has a page for every block. It shows you a black and white of what the block is going to look like. These are the pages that I blow up to this size. I make them 130% larger, and I put them on 8.5 by 11 paper. I have to keep hiding everything. So these are the papers, some of them. This was block I. And you can see this one's barely marked up at all. Wait till you see the first one. You probably won't even recognize it. Oh, no, that isn't block I. There's 2 block I's, you guys. I don't know why I made 2 of them. I probably lost the first one. Yeah. So they start out real nice and clean, and when I'm done with them, they look like this. So that's why I make a copy. Number 1, it's bigger. You can see it easier. Number 2, you can write all over it. So that was block I. This was block D. It helps me so much to be able to write. Now this one's block G. I was getting a little better, and it's not quite so messy. So I made one of these for every one. Here's block E. You can see I circled them as I go. I probably showed you this before, but I've lost track of everything in this video. So we're going to talk about block A, cat 1 today. And here's the paper I made for it. Now, you don't use this kitty. This is too little. This is a tiny copy. The block is much bigger. The block is actually 15.5 by 20.5. Yeah, big. So you don't use this. In the pattern, they give you the drawings for every one. Some of the ones, like the one I did yesterday, the middle one, it takes 2 papers to get all of that one. Now this is important. If you're not using a scan and cut, just turn me off, it doesn't matter. These are reverse drawings. You put this up in your window or you put it on a light box and you just trace all of these pieces here. Y'all know how to do that. We've been doing that since we were kids. Draw all the parts, then you cut them out. First you iron. You take whatever you're making your kitty with, big enough piece to have all of these pieces on it. After you've drawn all of your pieces on the heat and bond, the heat and bond has a piece of paper in here, and you can draw on the paper. You draw on it, see? Then you iron this to the back of your material, then you cut out all of your tracings. Okay, that's what you do without a scan and cut. But we're talking about the scan and cut today because it drove me nuts yesterday. It took me all day long to figure it out. Not how to use the scan and cut, but how to put this together with it. And I'll explain all of that to you. All right, so we are on cat 1. The scan and cut scans, but it ain't going to do me a bit of good in the world to scan this into the scan and cut. Why is that? Because all of these pieces have to be separate from each other. You can't have it cut. What it would do, the scan and cut would just cut around this whole thing, and his head would be in the middle of it, and it wouldn't even cut his head. It would just cut all the way around the outside. Unless you told it to cut in and out, and then it would cut all, it would be the biggest mess y'all ever saw. So what you have to do is separate all of these pieces. What I do is I scan this into my Photoshop editing software where you can edit a picture. Then I unreverse it. I scan it. I scan it with my copier. open it up in my software, then I unreverse it. So to unreverse it, you have to actually re-reverse it. I know it makes no sense at all. But you have to have the pieces so you're cutting them directly on top of the fabric. Your fabric's not going to be upside down, it's going to be right side up. Now there is a way you can put the fabric down, then you will use the reverse one, but this is the joy way. And the joy way, we put the fabric up, and so we're just going to cut it out the right way. Okay? So after we do that, I will print out probably 2 or 3 copies of it, because I'm going to have this part separate. I want this cut out by itself, and you'll see why later. I want this part by itself. I want this part, and this part by itself before I put it into my scanner. Now, yesterday I scanned it directly into the scanner. It gave me fits. It gave me very poor outlines. Even though I made it very, very dark, it still gave me very poor outlines. And I'll tell you something else. Part of the objects I outlined, was a head actually, and I had gone all the way around the head, and there was a little part of it that wasn't very dark, and so I went over it with a colored pencil in black. The colored pencil in black didn't copy at all on the scan. Came out blank. Live and learn. Part of the problem is with these machines and this technology is if you don't use it on a daily basis, you really lose track of all the little tips and techniques and tricks that you can use it for. So the first thing I'm going to do, now I have already, every single cat has the same eyeballs. So I have already cut out about 16 of these little ones and 16 pairs of the top ones, or maybe 16 each because there's only 5 cats, that's right. So I cut out a whole bunch more than I needed. I'll show you. That's his eye. I have 16 of these already cut out in the black. I have 16 of the back already cut out in the white. So go ahead and get that done. You won't have to worry about his eyes anymore, all right? Okay. I'm gonna go put this on my printer. I'm gonna scan it. I'm going to reverse it with my Photoshop software. Then I'm going to print out several copies of it. Because if I just print out one copy of it, I'm not going to be able to cut out all of these different things. And some of them I may stick up in the window and just draw. But that's the first thing I'm going to do, okay? So let me go do that, and then I'll be back, and then I'll show you what I do to get this ready to cut the kitty out, all of its parts and provisions, with the scan and cut. Here we are. Here's the original. Here's my copy. Notice this one is the reverse of that one. See, if you put his head together, one's going to the left, one's going to the right, that's what you want. So finally, I have all my parts. Now you're probably saying, why you go to all that trouble? Why don't you just draw the pieces and cut them out? Because the cutting part is what the scan and cut does so beautifully. It cuts through the fabric and through the iron-on backing, and it cuts it perfect edges. It's wonderful. It cuts into the point. It is really wonderful. So you want the scan and cut to cut it for you, unless you just love to sit and cut like I used to and just cut around and around tiny little places, etc. So the only things I'm not going to have the scan and cut are the inside and outside of the 2 ears and the nose. I can cut those all by myself without the scan and cut. Okay, and I'm going to write on here cat 1 so I remember what they go to. So I'm going to go in the other room now, and I'm going to take you with me. How about that? You want to go for a walk? Let's go in the other room. Here was yesterday's project. And yesterday's project, this piece and this piece were separate on the printout from the company who made the pattern. So I had to tape the two together in the middle and cover up the two lines in the middle. You see? And then he also has his bunny rabbit line right there. And I didn't want it to cut that, so I just marked it off so it would cut me one whole piece. And then I will just sew with my sewing machine around that right there. So it shows he has a proper thigh on him. So this was cat number 3 is who he was. Gave me fits, but I got him done. Praise the Lord. I probably should save that in case I ever am crazy enough to do this again. Let's hope not. All right, scan and cut. Scan and cut has different what's called mats. This is brand new. I paid like $45 for it. Isn't that ridiculous? It's a little piece of thick cardstock. It's just ridiculous what it cost. It's called low tack, but it's actually too tacky when it's new. Too tacky. The first part that I did, the whole back stayed on here, and I had to scrape it off piece by piece by piece. This is what's left of the little eyeballs. They're all cut out, and I have to pull them off. You want to see? The eyeballs are on here. I just have to lift them off. This is your scanning mat. All this does is hold your paper. That's all it does. It's not sticky or anything. It's probably another 40 bucks also. See the two little eyeballs there? I printed this and then I multiplied it and I made like 16 of each. Yeah, that's how I did those. So we don't need those anymore. Really hard to draw those shapes. But I got them. Here's the white. And all of the little white parts are already cut out. I just have to pop them out of here. They didn't cut out very good, so I have to use my scissors to really get them cut the rest of the way out. But they are there, and they are usable. So this is the scanning mat. It's black on the bottom. Oops, there went his head. Okay, so let's lift this up so it can hold. We're going to put his head. Now, remember, you're going to be cutting this out of fabric. Like, for instance, this I cut some stuff out of. Now, if this had a certain direction that you wanted the head to be, say you wanted the head to be this way, but you've printed it this way, your software will let you turn it any direction you want it. Okay, so don't worry about that. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so there's his head. Here's the tail. Here's the body. Here's one of his feet. Where's his other feet? Beware of disappearing little pieces. These were stuck on the back of that other mat that I hung up over there. Do you see here how these are in here for me to scan? That's why it's called scan and cut. There we go. Scan and cut. The difference between this and a Cricut and a silhouette is this will scan these pieces for me now and prepare them for cutting. Okay? So you have to get your mat ready. Your mat always goes in from the little point. See the little point on this end? This end has the bar with the writing on it. That's the wrong end. The part that you hang up, that's the wrong end. The end with the arrow and the little squares, that's what your machine reads. And that's what goes in first. And so you line it up here. Shows you where it's only one place you can put it. Make sure it's touching on this side. It can go back and forth just a dab. But line it up with this side and then feed it. The carriage will move. Oh, you have to let it move first. First of all, it moves practically nowhere at all. And then, okay to retrieve and presume, might as well. Then go back to home and then delete everything you were doing before because we're starting over. So we're going to put the scan mat right here, and we're going to feed it with that middle button that looks like a mat. It looks like a mat because it moves your mat. Alright, so now it has not scanned it. All it has done is feed the mat into the scan and cut. So now we're going to tell it to scan it, and then it's going to go all the way through and all the way back. Now, I want to tell you something I have learned about this scanning mat. It goes from 0 to 24 inches. You can scan just 6 inches of it, just 12 inches of it, just 18 inches of it. I'm not sure all the different numbers, but you don't have to scan the whole entire mat. Now, I know that my designs in here go to at least 13 and a half, so I'll see what my choices are. Now, I don't think you can see my buttons very good, so let me zoom you into the buttons over there. You see my little sign there? I put that on there with this scan and cut. I cut out those letters and rubbed them on there. You can get those off. Those are not permanent letters. Those are the kinds you can remove with hairdryer if you want to. And I put on there, did you reverse it? Because if you forget, you're going to have to start over. But in my case, I don't have to worry about that, okay? So you see the buttons. This comes with a stylus, but you can use a friction pen for a stylus too. And I like the friction pen, it works good. Alright, so what we want to do is scan. So we have a choice for pattern, scan, retrieve data, or test. We want to scan, so hey, let's push scan. Hello. Now, we can do a direct cut, which means it will scan it and cut it right away. We don't want that. We don't want to cut anything out on this mat. So we're going to scan to cut data or scan to USB. Now if I scan it to the USB, I could take the USB and put it in my laptop, and then we could work at Canvas Workspace. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to scan it right into here. So we're going to put scan to cut data. Now it wants to know how big an area I want to scan. And the choices are 12 by 6, 12 by 12, 12 by 18, or 12 by 24. So since mine goes past 12, I'm going to have to use 12 by 18. Okay? So I'm going to tell it to scan 18 inches of this mat. Start. It's feeding the mat in. It's coming all the way out the back. I always come to the back and hold it. Now there's some important things you need to do next. Alright, that has gone all the way in and come all the way out. Now it's recognizing it. It's going to show you what it just scanned. When it gets through with that graph right there, it's going to show you this is what we scanned. And that's it right there. And if you could see up close, you can see it's a mess. It's scanned. You know how I cut these out, and there's some white part of the copy paper around all of these drawings. They're roughly cut. They're not cut right on the line. Well, it scanned around all of that white paper. But look at this. This is the coolest thing. First, you've got to tell it how you want it to cut. Do you want it to cut just the outside? Do you want it to cut the outside and the inside? Or do you want to do this? And I have no clue what that button does. I've never used it. And I don't know why you would want it any differently than the first two buttons. So I'm not sure about that. We're going to choose the first one. We just want it to cut the outsides. Then we're going to choose this graph right here. And we are going to tell it we want it really, really dark. If you looked at this right here, maybe you can see it. You can see how very, very messy it is. There's a black line all the way around that body. There's a black line all the way around the head. There's a black line around the feet. It's a mess. So wait till you see how this cleans this up. It is really cool. Okay, so we want it on the darkest. We're going to hit preview. It's going to clean it up. Now, if you could see that, which I hope you can, the lines are all very clean. The tail is light lines, but it's still lines. Everything else is a clear, concise line for cutting. It looks really good. Now yesterday I had a problem with it doing light lines like it's doing on this tail, and it wouldn't cut them. But we'll see what it does today because I've already made it as dark as it can go. I may have to rescan the tail and put it more in the middle or something. Who knows? You have to be patient and you have to be willing to do things over and over and over till you get them right. Alright, I'm going to click OK. Either end of the pen works. And I'm going to click OK again. We want to be sure we save this. And it's going to give you a choice. Now you have to pick one of these places to save this. You can save it on a USB. You can save it over to your laptop or your computer right here wirelessly. Or you can keep it here in the machine in its file cabinet. So let's just keep it here in the machine. Okay, it's here and it's number 130. The next thing we have to do is get away from scanning what we want to cut. Now we have to prepare something to cut this out of. We can't cut it out of this. All we did was scan it. So we could take these shapes and tell the machine, okay, I've put material in here now. All of those shapes that we saved as number 130 or whatever it was, I want you to cut them now. Okay? So we have to prepare the cutting mat. The cutting mat. The cutting mat can be a very used standard cut mat, or it can be one of these brand new low tack. Everything sticks to it. This is where the two legs were to my dinosaur. Stuff is stuck to the back of this. Ah. So like I said, this was too sticky at first. But now that I messed with it for the other dinosaur, it is a mess and it's not that tacky anymore. I'll give you a refresher course on mat cleaning. I had this white piece of material here and I had the black there. And I just pulled the black off and you can see how much it left behind. See, it's too sticky still. So I'm just going to scrape that off. We're going to do mat cleaning. There's a lot of the sticky stuff from the heat and bond on here. I'm just scraping it off with this little spatula thing that comes with your scan and cut. I'm going to take some Scotch tape and tape all that up. And then we're going to have a refresher course on how you clean your mat. After you use your mat, get done with your project, you need to clean it. And you can clean it with these wipes. These wipes are awesome. I don't know why they work with it, but they do. One. Just one. These are from Walmart, and they're super cheap, and it's a giant bag. I love these things for their real purpose and for this. Look at how this came off. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? So now you let it dry. Now I just started using this for the first time yesterday. $45 for this thing. Oh, and you don't want to put your scan away yet, but you may have to scan it again. Ask me how I know. Now which end, raise your hand, which end of this goes into the machine? Who knows? Who knows? Oh my gosh, all of you know. Oh my gosh, you're such good listeners. The pointy end goes in first, so we might as well turn it that way. Alright, so we have it clean, we have it ready to use, we have nothing to put on it. Let's go in the other room and get something to put on it. I have my fabric ironed to the Heat and Bond Light. I cut my piece 12 inches wide because you can't cut any wider than 12 inches wide. This is only 12 inches wide, so whatever you cut over that ain't gonna cut anyway. So 12 inches wide by 16. This heat and bond, the directions on this heat and bond, they say to iron it on for 2 seconds. This part. Not when you're ironing it on the shirt, but when you're ironing it onto the fabric that you're getting ready to cut out, it says 2 seconds. 2 seconds doesn't work. I do it at least 4 seconds because it just wasn't embedded in the fabric enough, or it would not have pulled off. In fact, because I've done that today, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this sheet off the back because I've ironed it on better today. Yeah, see there? I have ironed it on better today. So I don't think it's going to come off the back like it did yesterday when I followed the directions. Sometimes the directions need to be changed. Oh yeah, this sticks much better this way, which, you know, might be good, might not be good. Oh, experiment, experiment. Okay, now see, it's not falling off. When I had the paper on the back, it wouldn't stick. And see, it's coming off easily. Ah, yes. All right, mistake yesterday. I didn't iron it on long enough, and it wasn't stuck good enough, in my opinion. So now we're not going to have to give it any additional help, like scotch taping it the whole way around. We are going to put it in. We have to feed it. We have to feed it like we did the other mat. So at first we just push the mat button and it goes in a little bit. It looks to see, hey, did you pay $46 for the right mat or not? And I'll guarantee you it knows. Because I found a mat. I thought, oh, it's half the price. I'll get it. Well, guess what? It went back to Amazon. Okay, so what do we do now if we want to cut? All right, I need you to be able to see this, not me. So I have fed it in. We are going to choose, you got to go find what we want to do. I mean, that's not going to do anything. So, where is our copy? Where is our scan? Our scan is here in the machine. Not enough available memory to save the data. Delete another data. Okay, let's go delete some data. How can I delete it if it won't let me go there? Not enough data, delete. Okay, let's just delete anything. Let's delete that. Delete, okay. Let's delete that, delete. Those are some early vinyl scan and cuts I did. Yeah, delete that. This only has so much memory in it, so when your memory gets full, there's a big old sewing machine. Let's delete that. I wish you could choose more than one. There's a cross and a heart. Let's delete that. Okay, so we've deleted a few of our patterns in our memory bank because it would not let me find this one until I did. So we chose our pattern. Now we're going to click OK. Now it's going to take you to the screen where it shows you the pieces you want to cut. And it gives you the ability to scan this fabric right here so you can place those pieces on the fabric. So the way you do that is you come down here to the mat. Another picture of a mat. It's in the middle. Click mat. I was in the middle of showing you this and the battery went dead and the camera went black. So I don't know how much we lost. But what I'm showing you is there is a button here. Once you choose what you want to cut, and it comes over here to your edit screen, there is a little picture of a mat here in the middle, and you click on it, and your mat goes all the way through and all the way back. You have to tell it here under the wrench, right here, you tell it if you have a 12 by 24 or a 12 by 12. If you're looking for something, always click on that wrench. There's always something in the wrench, okay? So we have a 12 by 24. That's how it knew I had already chosen it. Now you can see the material. I'm pretty sure you can probably see the material. I've turned this up higher, but I don't know how to. So there's two ways you can look at the material. Under the wrench again, you can choose this button, which shows it really, really dark. Or you can choose this button, which shows it light. I want it to be light because I need to be able to see my drawings. So for some reason, the tail, which is here, you can see it. This is what drives me crazy about the scanning. It just takes me hours and hours and hours to do a simple job. See the tail? See it? It's just as dark as the other things. But it can't see it. Even though it did show it on the original, it said, this is what I printed, do you like it? This is what we scanned, and it showed it, but it was real light. And it did this to me yesterday. And don't tell me I have to send it for repair. Oh, I totally don't want to do that. I will copy the tail again by itself is what I'll do. I mean, figure out a way to get around it. And so it gives you all kinds of buttons. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. You can probably reverse it. Yeah, you can reverse it here if you forgot to reverse it elsewhere. What I want to do is turn it. So I'm going to come over here to the rotate button, and I'm going to turn it 90 degrees. Now, it was going to cut out this direction, but actually the fabric goes up this way, so it was right to start with. Let's turn it back that direction. This foot, I want to turn around. This foot, I want to turn around, and I want to move it way up here. I want to leave myself room on this piece of fabric to cut the tail out after I scan it again. So disappointing, you know. Put that up there. Now here's his other leg. Let's turn it around. And then that leaves me room for the tail right here. Can you believe you can't even see that tail at all? So we have the head here. The head is where it was to start with. This has been turned around, so it's going this way now. All of these 3 feet and legs are down here, and the tail doesn't show up at all. Cry, 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 cry river. What good's that going to do you? This is why it takes me so many hours to do these things. So we always start out, there's a lever over here that can be a 1 or it can be a 2. Always start out on number 1. Number 1's almost always the right number to use unless you have a really thick something or other, if you're cutting velvet maybe. And then when you went to cut it, it would say, hey dummy, you need to use number 2. Okay, so leave it on number 1. Let's hit OK. Now we just click OK, 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 OK until it tells us to please select. Okay, so I hit OK, OK, OK. Now it says please select. It wants to know, what do I want to do with this? Well, we know what I want to do with it. I don't want to cut it. Cut. There's a place in here called half cut. You want it off. Half cut is only for vinyl. Half cut is only for vinyl. Half cut is only for vinyl. I cannot tell you how many times I wish people would say things like that, because I'll go, rewind that, rewind that, rewind that. What did she say? What did she say? So that's why I say it 3 times for you. You don't want half cut. Turn it off. It says half cut pressure too. Well, that doesn't matter because it's not even on, okay? We don't need a weeding box. A weeding box slices a rectangle or a square around the head, around the body, around each leg. You don't need that. You don't need that. Okay? Alrighty. Let's go back to OK. And let's do a test. A test, it will cut out a circle or a square or a triangle for you someplace else where you're not, you haven't placed your pieces. So we're going to go to test. A triangle is good because it has 3 points. And you want to make sure it cuts the points well. I don't know how good you can see here, but right here it shows that it's fixing to cut a triangle out of this dinosaur's rear end. I'm going to move this. Hard to catch it. Keep clicking till you hear it click. If it doesn't click, get your other little doolally here. Ta-da! There it went. It won't move if you don't hear the little click. I'm going to cut that right there. Right here. Right over here. I'm going to cut that out and see if it comes off easily off the mat and it is completely cut. Okay, so we're going to start that and we're going to do that test. And make sure the machine doesn't say, you didn't do this right, you need to be on number 2. There. It's cutting out a square. I had it on square. So get your little picker-upper. Who's watch it? I'm surprised how good the light is. I've got all the lights turned off. Maybe I should do this in the dark every day. Alright, so you got to come over here and see where it cut. It cut right there. Oh, look at that. 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 Can you see? Can you see? That's the test. Look at how good it cut. Straight edges, no frays. It came unstuck from the background very easily. So now that this mat is not new anymore, I don't have a problem. Plus, remember, I ironed that stuff on longer than 2. 2 seconds is not long enough. 4 seconds is much better. Okay, so now we're gonna say, cut the real thing, Bing. Let's cut the real thing. So, test again. No, just start and cut the thing out. Here we go. So we're going to cut everything out but the tail. Why didn't the tail work? I don't know. But what we're going to do is we're going to take everything out of here but the tail. Same exact kind of ink, same darkness. Frustrating. So I am going to put it way up here so I don't have to scan it past 6 inches. Yeah, that'll work. See? So it's all by itself in there now. So we'll just scan that and see. Oh, it's just cutting beautifully. Here it comes. There it comes. Okay. Before I let the mat come out, I'm going to make sure I don't have to cut this again, because if you don't move the mat, you can put it back in and it will cut on the exact lines it cut on before. If you take the mat out and you put the mat back in, you'll get different lines. Alright, let's see, what can we remove? I see a foot here. Hello, are you cut? No. Now see, that is not cut. That is not cut there. So, like I said, it cut the square, but it didn't cut the foot. Why? The foot is round. It has a problem with round. I don't know. But I'm going to put it back in. Let's go back in. Okay. Let's go back in. Please select cut. Yes. So, it's right here. It wants to know what I want to do. I'm going to say, let's cut it again. Please select cut. Only this time, instead of a 2, I'm going to put it on a cut pressure of 3. I'll be back in a minute and I'll show you if it cut good, and then we'll see if we can cut that tail out, okay? Because I don't want to just let the camera run or the battery's going to die. It's already died twice. I scanned the tail by itself. Here's the tail. I scanned it. Can you see the tail? I scanned it. It can see the tail just fine now. I moved the tail over to this side to cut it over here, so I would have this much material left if I need it for something else. Well, it decided to take this corner over here and flip it up and eat it. So there is a button on here, right here, these 2 dashes. And if you need it to stop cutting because it's screwing up, hit these 2 buttons, those 2 little slashes, that button on the bottom, hit it and it will stop. And then it will spit it out. See here, this edge is curled up too. It's because the backing came off of it when I cut it the first time. So much for my thinking that wouldn't happen. Actually, it didn't happen up at the top. This was turned around the other way. Put Scotch tape. You can put Scotch tape all over the edges and it won't hurt it, and the Scotch tape comes off real easy. So if your edges start popping up, just tape them, tape them, tape them. Be sure you get them underneath the roller so it doesn't tape your roller down. But once you finally get all your pieces, see my pieces? Yes, see how nice they are? I'm glad it's doing this, because these are the kinds of things that can happen and you need to know about them. So let's put please select, see if it will cut. I'm putting it back in the exact same place as it was. Please select. If it messes up again, I will move it over here and cut it. Alright, let's start and pray. Oh, please. Alright, here it goes. It's cutting again. Now, it didn't get this far a minute ago before it ate up the corner and it just jammed. Okay, so you can see how I fixed it. I taped all of the corners and the edges down. I should have a really nice tail out of this now. Oh, see it doing it again? It just grabbed it again. Crazy. I do not understand that. Oh, that's a mess. Alright, let's see if we can even get it out of here. I mean, it came up real easy, but we can't use a tail like that. We can't use that raggedy edge. So, we're going to have to cut this out again. again and again and again until it cuts out right, if it takes us all day. Let's see if what my lightning fast mind figured out might be the problem. Let's see if this sucker cut out this time, okay? Well, actually it's a tail, not a sucker. Okay, let's see. Look at this, my friends. Look at this. Perfect. 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 Do you know what I did? I cut it out twice before and it was a disaster. So I've changed two things because that heat and bond stuff was still sticking to this. Let's see if this sticks to it. No, no. What I did was I went back to my Steam Seam 2 Light and I put it on the back of another piece. No sticking at all. I have a whole bolt of heat and bond. Went back to my Steam Seam 2. I love that stuff. Put it on here, put it down on the board. Let's pull it up. Now, here's the next thing I did. This is the this is the fastest lightning part. Change the blade. If your cut isn't pretty and you're getting all kind of ravelly edges and you're having to make it thicker and thicker, hello, you just might need a new blade. And I just happen to have one. This is called the Fine Fabric Blade. I'm getting ready to order another one, so I'll have it on hand. Oh my goodness, it just lickety-lick, only on pressure 2, not 3, not 4, pressure of 2. Cut it out beautifully. Hello, change your blade. Oh, I'm such a happy girl now. I can't wait to get to dinosaur number 3. I'll be back then.